Welcome to Sip No Tech. I'm Alex. How you doing? I am so conflicted about this review right now. This is driving me insane. I am totally going berserk right now, figuring out how to present this review of the Samsung Chromebook Plus to you. I haven't been talking like this for a while. I haven't been talking directly to you like this for a long time. I just want to talk about the Chromebook Plus. So bear with me here, guys. We're gonna talk about the Chromebook Plus. And I'm gonna tell you everything I feel about this device, and a lot of it is good, a lot of it is bad. So let's check it out right now. You know, just a couple weeks ago, if I had did this review 2 weeks in or 3 weeks in, I would have told you that this Chromebook Plus had a pretty good build quality. It is magnesium alloy, and anything other than plastic is great in a sea of Chromebooks that are made from plastic. But after using it a little longer, it's been more than a month now, I gotta tell you that I was totally wrong. My whole perception of this Chromebook in terms of build quality is completely flipped backwards. This is, and I am confident in saying this in my personal use, that this is the worst built Chromebook I have ever owned, period. And I've had a lot of Chromebooks, I've used a lot of Chromebooks in the past, metal and plastic, and this is probably the worst built one. And one of the reasons I say this is, it's not the most sturdy thing in the world. Once you hold it in your hand, you kind of know that this is not an HP 13G1, it's not a Pixel, it's not a MacBook, it's definitely not one of the highest built quality Chromebooks, but you would think it would hold up. But through average use, I really didn't push this thing. This Chromebook Plus is basically my bedside, laptop, tablet combination. It doesn't see much battle, to be honest. It really doesn't compared to my MacBook, my 12-inch MacBook. This sees nothing compared to that. And I use it maybe a few hours a day. It's not that heavy use. And the bottom plate is already trying to pop out. The whole thing is loose, and if you press on it, if you press the bottom plate, you can hear squeaking. It's crack, 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 and it is so annoying. The screws are getting loose from just casual use. I'm not using it for anything extraordinary. This is just casual use. While we're on the subject of the bottom of the Chromebook, the speakers, there's two speakers, one on the left and one on the right, they're both bottom firing speakers. So they go downwards and they have to bounce off your table. So they're a little muffled. It's not the loudest speakers in the world. It's actually pretty soft. And due to the fact that it's going downwards, it makes it even worse. Which gets kind of weird too, because the speakers aren't that great. But when you fold it into your tablet mode, and it's actually compacted with the hood of your device, it's actually technically facing you once you're holding it in tablet mode. But it's also blocked by the actual magnesium alloy of the back of the screen. And in essence, even though it's firing at you, it's still being blocked by something, so it is still muffled, just as it would be on your table surface if you have it in laptop mode. So both of those directions, they have something blocking you with the audio. The other thing I wanted to talk about in terms of audio quality is the speakers aren't bad per se. An example of this is when I'm using it in this mode right here, where I fold it backwards. I use this reverse tent mode a lot when I'm in bed, and it's pretty soft. I have to turn it in max volume, and it's still relatively soft in terms of audio quality. But when I left the room and I just set it down and I left the video running and I went to the bathroom or something, right? In the other room, I could hear the audio very loudly, and the reason for that is it's blasting out in front of you. So the people in front of you will hear it because nothing's intruding on it. It's pretty interesting. The audio quality actually gets pretty loud. It's just it's always being blocked by something by the user. But when it's not being blocked, the audio quality is pretty good. But in this kind of format, it's very hard to do that. So Samsung, I think you should have put it right in the front. There is a huge bezel on the top of the keyboard. You could have put the speaker here. You could have put a sound bar like the HP 13G1. The quality doesn't have to be good. As long as it's facing you, it will be good enough. So we covered the specs in the unboxing video, so we're not going to talk too much about the specs here. It's funny how a lot of people have certain perceptions about brands. And that's not just about hardware, it's also about parts. ARM processors don't have a very popular following in the tech community. A lot of people, when they hear ARM processor, they get turned off. When compared to something like the Intel processors, like the Core M3 or the Core i3 or whatever on up the line. This is the same thing for MediaTek in the Snapdragon processors. You automatically hear Snapdragon and you think it's better. You hear MediaTek and you think it's bad, so you don't want to buy it. A lot's changed, guys. A lot has changed. It's an unpopular opinion, but a lot has changed, and this is proof of that, because the ARM processor in here, the OP1 here, it's gonna surprise a lot of people. It's gonna shock a lot of people who saw and heard about it and didn't expect much from it. But, oh my gosh, this thing is performing, guys. It's performing really well. I'm not going to talk about benchmarks. We never talk about benchmarks on this channel. I ran them. They are on par with what other people are saying and what other people have run. It is not. It doesn't give you the numbers that you would that you would want. You know, like those people who really want high numbers, this will not give you that. But from everyday use, surprisingly, this is pretty darn smooth. For me, my suite of apps that I use for my Android tablets and my Chromebooks, this has performed the best. Hands down, it has performed the best out of any of the Chromebooks I've used Android tablets with. And some apps run better on this than it does on my Android tablets, like the Galaxy Tab S2, which was a flagship tablet by Samsung. Take that with a grain of salt if you want, but the OP1 is legit. It is optimized for Android apps, so that might have played a part in this. I'm not going to make any comments on the Pro because I have not used the Pro. I have not used the Asus C302, and I cannot comment on how their copy of the M3 works in comparison to this ARM processor here, the OP1. But what I can tell you, though, is the OP1, it's good. It works. It works really fine. Of course, I'm not one to have like 15 Chrome tabs open in the first place. I have at max 5 or 6. Android apps, you do have to make adjustments. You have to use one at a time. Probably close out and open the new one. So multitasking might not be the best. But in terms of running apps individually, oh my gosh. I haven't run an app that really has killed this thing. So yeah, I'm really happy to say that the ARM processor here is beyond expectations of a lot of people, including myself.
Hypnotech.
We talked about some of the hardware problems. Another part of the hardware that I really didn't like was the keyboard. So the keyboard is a full-size keyboard. This is a laptop, but the problem here is the keyboard takes a lot of shortcut. There's a lot of shortcomings here, and they kind of clamp down on some things that they shouldn't have. One thing that I'm complaining about is the backspace button. So, on a full-size keyboard, you should not have a backspace button that's this small. Backspace button is one of the most, if not the most, used button on the entire keyboard layout. So to have that shrunk to the size that they have it at, it's very inconvenient. I often miss that when I'm trying to backspace. The keys, when you're typing, it's very shallow and plasticky. It is plasticky and it is very cheap feeling. For a $450 device, I was hoping for a better performance in terms of the feel of the actual keycaps. But it is what it is there. Another layout problem I didn't like was the fact that they have the Chrome OS buttons on the top, the shortcut buttons, which are good. They should keep that. That is totally right to have that there. But they have a lock button, which doesn't make sense to me. It's not a power button. It's a lock button. So I don't understand what a lock button does for your Chromebook. I know you want to make it like a tablet, but it logs you out. I mean, is this like an emergency thing? Someone walks in, you don't want them to see what you're working on or looking up on the web, so you have a lock button that locks the screen. I don't understand that. Most Chromebooks I've ever used on that space, they have a power button. But the only way to power off your device is, of course, you have to go through settings or use the power button on the side. Why is there a lock button? I don't understand that. Why can't we swap that with the power button on the side, where the power button is actually on the shortcuts and the lock button is where the traditional Android on sleep button power button is? You know, it doesn't make sense why they put a lock button there. That doesn't really do much for Chrome OS. Now, Stylus. Let's talk about the S Pen or Stylus or whatever you want to call it. This thing here, it's great that they have it included onto the Chromebook. This is definitely, like a lot of you guys have said in other videos, this is a plus, no pun intended, it's a plus compared to other Chromebooks in this field, because not a lot of Chromebooks, there's no Chromebook out there that comes with a pen included with a dock inside too. It's really handy. However, this is just for me, my usage. I don't use this. For my line of work, I never use a pen. It's something that I experimented with the first week or so, and I just never pulled it out after. I really haven't found a use for this S Pen since. But I can see how this could be beneficial to certain people. College students, I can understand wanting to take notes. If you like art as a hobby and you like doodling, this could be kind of fun for you. If you have children who like coloring apps, or since there is the Play Store here, you can download a coloring app for kids and have them color in the car or something like that instead of real paper and crayons everywhere. I can see how this could be beneficial. There are uses for this that I could see people using it for, but just for me, in my usage, I don't have much of a benefit for it, so that is a non-factor for my opinion of the device. But I do understand how certain people could use this as a plus for their Chromebook. I did a video in the past about the S Pen more in depth, testing certain apps, talking about this a little more. So if you are interested, you can definitely check that video out. I'll have a link below. But otherwise, we're not going to talk too much about this in this review because we have a lot of other stuff to talk about. At 12.3 inches, it's only normal for one to assume that this is on the smaller end spectrum for display sizes on laptops. But because it is a 3:2 aspect ratio, we do get a lot more screen real estate than one would think we have. So, for comparison, in a previous video we compared the 12-inch Apple MacBook with this Samsung Chromebook Plus, and although they only have a 0.3 difference in logistical comparison, it actually is much bigger. The Chromebook Plus is actually a lot bigger than the 12-inch MacBook. And so it's interesting to see that the 3:2 aspect ratio plays such a big part in changing the hardware experience on this. As far as the 3:2 aspect ratio goes, I actually really like it. I think this is one of these things where the good outweighs the bad. And I say that because the 3:2 aspect ratio does crop or give you black bars for certain videos. However, when you read this in portrait mode, when you fold in portrait mode, it's a lot better to read articles or to look at photos and other things using this 3:2 aspect ratio than something like the traditional 16:9 or 16:10. It feels really awkward to hold a 16:9 tablet or 2-in-1 because everything is in a rectangular shape and it's just too elongated and text gets stretched out. By 3:2, it's more like a book. So 3:2 aspect ratio, to me, in my experiences, I really do like a lot more than a 16:9 aspect ratio. When it comes to battery life, I'm getting about 6 hours of use. That's about 2 feature-length films. I've been able to watch about 2 feature-length films consecutively before the Chromebook Plus needs to be charged. That's okay. That's about average. Some people might be disappointed in that number right there. But because, once again, I said this, I think, about the 13G1, because I lived with the Chromebook Pixel first generation for so long, where it was a stretch just getting 4 hours of battery life. 6 hours is a godsend already. I am a little disappointed in it. I wish I could have got a little more out of this, but 6 hours, I'm not complaining too much about the battery life. I gotta say that sometimes my opinion and my personal preferences often collide, especially for a channel like us, where Leah and I pride ourselves in trying to present ourselves as consumers, giving you a consumer's point of view, where we don't go out of our way to talk in tech terms and we just want to talk in layman's term where anybody can understand. I do feel conflicted because I want to tell you to avoid this thing. The hardware is atrocious. This is probably one of the worst built Chromebooks I've ever owned. And yet, I love it. I love this thing so dang much. And that makes me feel really guilty to tell you guys that I still think this is a great device. Even with all these things that in the past I would have said, hey, you know what? This thing has bad hardware, you should avoid it. Or, hey, this thing might not even last a couple years. You know what? I really don't know if this Chromebook will last me more than a year. And I'm not, like I said before, I'm not even trying to destroy it. I'm using it very casually, very carefully. It's on pillows, for God's sake, most of the time. So, you know, I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm going to recommend you to buy this because I've been waiting for Chrome OS to merge with Android for the longest period of time. And I've used devices in beta and developer channels with the with the Play Store, playing Google apps on here, playing some games, opening Android apps. Nothing has come close to what this has given me in terms of performance of the Android apps and Chrome OS merging seamlessly together. This is as close to my dream come true as it's ever been. And I'm speechless. I'm speechless because I'm conflicted to tell you that it's bad hardware, all the signs are there to avoid it, but you shouldn't avoid it because this is as close to perfection as there is right now. But I will also tell you this too. As soon as something better comes out, the Eve, whatever Google Pixel 3, if there ever was one to come out, I will buy that because I am so hooked on getting to that goal right there of having that perfect Android experience on Chrome OS that I want to upgrade that. I got a taste of that from this. And right now I do think this is the best experience out there, mostly because the Chrome OS and Android, this is the first Chromebook to have the Play Store natively installed onto it. But I love it. I still think it's a great device, even with all its shortcomings, even with the lack of durability. You know what? If you've been waiting for this long, this thing will not disappoint you. Even though it has so many issues with the hardware, I still think you should check it out. What do you guys think? Am I going crazy? Doing this review and like talking like this right now, it brings me back to my 12-inch MacBook debate where I did a review last year. It's actually the most viewed video we've ever had on our channel. And it seems like a lot of you guys actually liked that video. And the way I talked there, I was out of my mind. Like I was thinking to myself, should I even be saying this stuff? This is not what tech reviewers normally say, But I feel that right now for this device. I love it so much, but logically it doesn't make sense. And so, if you've watched my channel and you trust my opinion, go out and get it. If you don't, or if this Chrome OS is not something for you, maybe wait. But if you've been waiting for Chrome OS and Android to be together, this is the best experience you can get right now. So I think it's worth a shot. Once again, my name is Alex from Step No Tech. How do you feel right now? I mean, are you on the hook? Are you still trying to figure out what you want to buy? Have you bought one? Did you return it? Did you like it? Are you loving it? Do you experience the same kind of thing I'm experiencing? Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you guys next time.
If you liked the video, be sure to comment, subscribe, and like. If you didn't like the video, well, you should still subscribe because I'm 100% sure that you're going to like the content that we produce in the future. Until next time, bye!